Alright, now I'll just brief you a little bit about the SAS software so that you know how to operate it. Now when you open the SAS software, it always opens with the 5 default windows, which is Program Editor window, Log window, Output window, Explorer, and Results window. Now when I click on Program Editor window, it shows me up here that I'm in the Program Editor. When I click on Log window, also it shows me up here that I'm in the Log window. Similarly, when I click on Output window, it tells me up here that I'm in the Output window. Now when I click on Explorer, it doesn't show me up here that I'm in the Explorer window. It still says Output. It's showing me down here that I'm in the Explorer. When I click on Results window, also it doesn't show me up here, it shows me down here. That is because this Explorer and Results window, they are dock window. Dock window are separate window. Just like we have with our normal computers, this section right here where we can access libraries, desktop, and all that. Here also in SAS we have Explorer where we can have access to libraries, datasets, and all that. And in results, we get the results of the programs that we've been running. Now the program editor window is a window where you write and edit a program. You write and edit a program in the program editor window. Program editor window is also a window where you submit a program. To submit a program, you have to select the specific program and then click on this running icon up here. This is the submit button or the run button. You run the program from the program editor window. Now the log window will tell you what happened with the program. As of now, in the program editor, I was typing some random letters. I got this error here saying that this statement is not valid. It is out of proper order. So that is what the log window does. It tells you if the program was successfully executed or if there are any errors. Now output window, as the name suggests, it gives you the output. Now there are two types of output. One is the listing view, which is the default view in SAS, and the other one is the HTML view. Now the HTML doesn't come here in this output window. It comes as a separate window after program editor. When we run the program, it will come here as a separate window after program editor. Just in case if it doesn't show up here, you can go to tools, go to options, preferences, click on results and activate this create HTML. Click on OK and that will activate the HTML. And in results window also we get the listing and the HTML view. The only difference between the results window and the output window is that in the results window we get a history of all the programs that we've been running, whereas in the output window we only get the history of the current selection of the program only. In Explorer we have libraries, file shortcuts, favorite folders, this PC. Now file shortcuts, favorite folders, this PC, these are all connected to your computer on whichever system you're working in an organization. So we won't need these three here. We'll mostly be concentrating on libraries. Now libraries is like C drive in your system. Now I'll double click to open libraries. So now when you open the library, you'll always find the three default libraries, which is SAS help, SAS user, and work library. Now work library is the only library which is a temporary library, which means any data that we store in the work library will only be there for a temporary session, and any data that we store apart from the work library, they are all permanent data sets. Now we have the SAS user library out here. I'll double click to open it. We have all these data sets here in the SAS user library. Now a single data set is known as a SAS data set, and a collection of all these data sets are known as SAS files. A SAS dataset and SAS files, they are all stored in a SAS library. So now whenever we refer to a data, we'll always refer to a data using a two-level name. So a two-level name works like this. First, you give the name of the library. All these are name of the library such as SAS help, GIS maps, maps, SAS user and work. All these are name of the library. Then you give a dot. Then you give the name of the dataset such as admit, admit June, all, company, all these are name of the datasets here. For example, if I ask you to work on SAS user.admit, then you know you have to look into SAS user library, and the name of the data will be admin. So that is a two-level name. So now I'll open this SAS user library here. I'll open this admin data. I'll double click on it. Now if you see on top here also it has referred to this data using a two-level name. First the name of the library, which is SAS user, then a dot, then the name of the dataset admin. So now this is how a data looks like in SAS. If you see on top here also it has referred to a data using this two-level name. First SAS user, which is the name of the library, then a dot, and admin, which is the name of the dataset, SAS user.admin. So now this is how a data looks like in SAS. So in this data here, we have rows, all these are rows, and columns, all these are columns. So in SAS, we refer to rows as observations and columns as variables. So one way to remember observations and variables in SAS is to think of your CV. Your CV has two initials in it. So just think of C to be columns and V as variables because columns are variables. And rows, if you spell the spelling of rows, it starts with RO. So just think of R to be rows and O as observations because rows are observations in SAS. Now in this data here, we have 21 observations, 21 rows, and 9 variables, 9 columns, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So a data consists of only two values, either a character value, all these are character values, and numeric values, all these are numeric values. So you'll always notice in a data, even in your Excel, your spreadsheet, you'll always notice that characters are always aligned on the left hand side. They always start from the left hand side, whereas numeric, they are always aligned on the right hand side. They always start from the right hand side. So that is one way we differentiate between characters and numerics in a data. Another way in SAS is to check the backend coding for these variables. For example, this name here, name is a character variable. If I double click on this name variable, a window will pop up here. The type here says character because name is a character variable. So the backend coding for characters in SAS starts with a dollar sign and then the length and a dot. So don't worry, we'll go through more about this. For now, just remember that the backend coding for characters in SAS starts with the dollar sign and then the length and a dot. The length here for this name variable is 14. That is for characters. I'll close this. Now age is a numeric variable. If I double click on age, the type here says numeric because age is a numeric variable. The backend coding for numerics in SAS is just the length and a dot. Doesn't have a dollar sign. Alright, now I'll close this data here. Now every window that you open here can be minimized, maximized and closed separately. If you see this view table is open here, when I close this, we won't have that view table anymore. Now if you want to go back here in Explorer window, you have to click on this button. If I hover on it, it says up one level. This is the back button for this Explorer window. When I click on this, it will go back. Now this back button is only activated when I click on Explorer window. If I click on other windows such as Output, Log and Program Editor, that button won't be there. So if I want to go back in Explorer, I need to click somewhere in the Explorer window first. Only then that button will be activated and I can go back here. Alright, now I'll just brief you a little bit about this toolbar on top here, just like we have in our Word file, document file, these options in the toolbar. Similarly, in SAS also we have all these options. I'll go through one by one. The first option that we have here is this file option. In this file option, we can create a new file, we can open a file, we can close a file, we can open object, which is normally done in advanced SAS. We can save as, maybe give it a name, save as object also normally done in advanced SAS. We can import a data from outside SAS into SAS environment. We can also export a data from within SAS, maybe to your desktop. We can also print graphs, statistical report. Before printing, we can do a print preview, page setup, Then we can also send email, all using this file option out here. And then we have this edit option. In edit option, we have all these shortcuts such as Ctrl Z, Ctrl X, Ctrl C, Ctrl V. So all the shortcuts that you normally use with your normal computers, they are all applicable here in SAS as well. And then we have this view option. In view option, we have enhance editor, program editor. So now these two editors here, they are no different. They are both windows where we can write and edit a program and submit a program. It's just different computer configurations that's showing up either as enhance editor or program editor. For example, in my system, I've installed this particular version. It's showing up as program editor. But I've noticed that when I install a different version, it shows up as enhanced editor instead of program editor. So they are no different. They are both windows where we can write and edit a program and submit a program. And then we have log, output, graph, results, explorer, contents only, my favorite folders. Now this view option here is helpful. Like for example, I mentioned earlier that every window that we open here can be minimized, maximized and closed separately. So let's say I maximize this. If I want to close the program editor also, I can do this by clicking on this button from here. If I close that, it will ask me if I want to save this text in the program editor. I'll just click on no. Now if you see, I don't have the program editor window anymore. Now let's say I happen to close this log window also by mistake. Now I don't have log and program editor window anymore. So now when you open the SAS software, it always opens with the 5 default windows. So now if I want those window to come up again, I can go on view option and click on whatever window I want. If I want log, I can click on log. If I want program editor, I can click on program editor and those window will come up again. That is the view option. And then we have tools. In tools, we have query, table editor, graphics editor, report editor, image editor, text editor. So all these tools here, we don't need these. These are part of advanced SAS. These tools are majorly required when we want to do some minor editing in SAS. So we don't need these tools here as we're learning the basics here. And then we have this run option. This is just talking about this run button. Sometimes if you want to, you can either run or submit a program from here, or you can do it from here. And then we have solutions. In solution, we have analysis, development and programming, reporting, accessories, assist. In analysis, we have 3D visual analysis, analysis. All these are different streams of advanced SAS. So people, if they want to go into different streams of advanced SAS, they can go into all these such as market research, project management and all these. So similarly, we don't need these here because we're learning the basic SAS here. And then we have windows. Window just highlights you in which window you're on. Right now, I'm in the program editor, so it's highlighting that I'm in the program editor. When I click on log window, it will highlight me that I'm in the log window. Then we have this help option. Now this help option also is not of much use for us because this help option is majorly when you're working in an organization. What will happen is your computer will be connected to an online intranet in which all SAS systems are connected together. So that time by using this help option, you can ask some live questions and get some relevant help and answers. Okay, so what we'll do now is we'll just run some basic program just to show you how we write a program in SAS and what happens when we run a program. So now let's just take a hypothetical situation. Let's say that your manager had asked you to work on this SAS user.admit data, which has 21 observations and 9 variables. So now because we are practicing here, so we might be making mistakes and errors here and there. So we'll always remember that if we want to work on any data here, we'll first of all create a copy of that data first, so that if anything happens also, we can always refer back to this original data here. So we will do that now. We'll create a copy of this admit data, which is in the SAS user library. We'll create 2 copies actually. We'll create one in the work library, which is a temporary library, and we'll create another copy in either of these permanent libraries. So to do that, we write a command in SAS. So now SAS commands works on only 2 steps, either a data step or a proc step, or a data keyword or a data command, or a proc keyword or a proc command. Now, a data command is used for data processing, data mining, data subsetting, and data merging. So we'll learn more about that. And proc, it's a procedural command. It is used for printing, report generation, graph generation, statistics, and all that. We use a proc command for that. So how do we start writing a program in SAS? So we have to follow certain rules here. First is every command should begin with a keyword, either a data or a proc keyword. So we said we're going to create a copy of that admit data which is in the SAS user library. So that is part of data processing. So we have to begin with the keyword data here. So if you see here, I've written small d, small a, I can write capital T, capital A here, it doesn't matter because it is not case sensitive. So now I've begun this command with this keyword data. Now I have to tell SAS where to create this data. So we said we're going to create this data in the work library, which is a temporary library. So here also we'll refer to this data using a two-level name. So we'll write work, then we'll give a dot. Now you can give any name to your data, which means when we create in the work library, we'll save it by what name. So you can give any name here. We'll just give the name SAS training here. So now there are rules for naming data sets in SAS, and those rules are the name of the data can be from 1 to 32 characters. It can start with an underscore like this, cannot start with numbers like this, cannot have special characters like these except for underscore, and cannot have spaces in between. So I'll just give this simple name here by the name SAS training, which means when we create this data, we'll create it in the work library and we'll save it by the name SAS training. So now every statement should end with a semicolon. So this is one statement here. So I'll give a semicolon. Now I'll go to the next statement. I'll just press on enter. Now you have to tell SAS what copy of the data you want to create. So to do that, we have to write set. So we said we're going to create a copy of that admit data which is in the SAS user library. So here also we'll refer to this data using a two-level name. We'll write SAS user dot admit data. Now again, every statement should end with a semicolon, so I'll give a semicolon here. Now every command should end with a run command. And again, every statement should end with a semicolon. So now this is a complete command to create a copy of that admit data which is in the SAS user library. We've mentioned that we want to create this data in the work library and we'll save it by the name SAS training. We're creating a copy of that admit data which is in the SAS user library. So now I'll read this command here. Data work.SAS training semicolon set SAS user.admit semicolon run semicolon. Now I'll select this. Now if you don't select the specific command that you want to run, if you run this button, if you don't select the command, what will happen is it will run everything that is in the program editor, including all these. So if you want to run the program, you have to select the specific program that you want to run and click on this running icon up here. Now, after we run the program, we'll always make it a habit to check the log window because the log window will tell you what happened to the program. So we did this in the program editor, we ran that and we got this note here. This note says that there were 21 observations read from the dataset SAS user.admit. The dataset work.SAS training has 21 observations and 9 variables. So this is basically saying that it has read 21 observations from this SAS user.admit data because we have mentioned this. And it has created the data in the work library by the name SAS training. Now this data has 21 observations and 9 variables. Now I'll open work library. We have a data here by the name SAS training. If I open this, this is the same copy of that admit data which is in the SAS user library. I'll close this. Alright, so we have created a copy in the work library which is a temporary library. So we said we're going to create another copy in either of these permanent libraries. So we'll just do it in the SAS user library because apart from work, anything is a permanent library. So to do that, we have to write the command again. So again, every command should begin with a keyword. again we'll begin with this keyword data here. So earlier we created in the work library, this time we'll mention SAS user library. Then here also we'll refer to the data using a two-level name. You can give any name to the data. I'll just give ABC data here. And then every statement should end with a semicolon, semicolon. Now you have to tell SAS where to read this data from. So we have to write set. So earlier we read it from SAS user.admin. We can still read it from there. Or now that we have already created the data in this work library by the name SAS training, we can also read it from there. So let's just read it from work.SAS training. And then every statement should end with a semicolon. Now every command should end with a run command, semicolon. Now I'll run this. Now I'll check the log. This time the log says it has read 21 observations from work.SAS training. Earlier it read from SAS user. This time it created in the SAS user library by the name ABC. Earlier it created in the work library by the name SAS training. Again, this ABC data has 21 observations and 9 variables. So I'll open this SAS user. We have this ABC data, which is the same copy of that admin data. All right. So we have created two copies of that admin data. One in the work library, which is a temporary library, and another one in this SAS user library, which is a permanent library. And so far we have been running two commands here. And both the commands we started with the keyword data here. Now when I show you output window, it is empty. When I show you results also, it is empty. That is because results window and output window, they are not required when we run a data command. They are only activated when we run a proc command. So we'll just do that now. We'll just run a simple proc command just to show you how it looks like in the output and the results window. So again, we have to start every command with a keyword. This time we'll begin with the proc keyword. So I mentioned earlier that proc, it's a procedural command. It is used for printing, report generation, graph generation, statistics, and all that. So today we'll just do a simple proc print command. So I'll write print here. And now you have to tell SAS which data to print. So I write data is equal to. Now you can print any data here. You can print this data, you can print this data, you can print this data, you can print any data. Now let's just print this data, which is in the work library by the name SAS training. We'll print this 21 observations and 9 variables. We have all these ID, name, sex, age, all these variables. Let's print this data. I'll close this. So here also we'll refer to this data using a two-level name. So I'll write work.SAS training. Semicolon. Every statement should end with a semicolon. And now every command should end with a run command. Semicolon again. Now I'll read this command here. Proc print data is equal to work.SAS training semicolon run semicolon. Now when I run this proc command, this will not create any data like it did here previously. When I run this will just print that data which is in the work library by the name SAS training. It will just print that data in the listing and the HTML format. Now I'll select this and run. So automatically when we run the proc command, it takes us to the listing view and the HTML view. So first of all, I'll go to the output window. I'll show you how the listing view looks like. So this is how the listing view looks. It has printed that admin data. If you see here, ID, name, sex, age, all those 9 variables and 21 observations. This is the listing view. Now automatically when we run the proc command, another window pops up here, which is results viewer window. In this window, we get the HTML. This is how the HTML looks like. It looks like a web page. So now the listing and the HTML, they are no different. If you see, it has printed the same data. Here also 9 variables and 21 observations. Here also all the 9 variables and 21 observations of the data. But most of the time when we run the command, I'll be showing you from the HTML because it is much easier to read. And now if you see here in results also, we have results here. When I click on this plus sign, we have this is the listing view and this is the HTML. For example, let's say I happen to close this HTML from here. Now, if I want that HTML to come again, I can just double click on this. So those were the basic programs which I wanted to show you in today's class. So now I'll close this SAS software. I'll click on this button from here. Now it'll ask me if I want to end the SAS session. I'll click on OK. Now it'll ask me if I want to save all this text in the program editor window. I'll just click on no. Now if you see, I've closed the SAS software. So I mentioned earlier about temporary and permanent libraries. So what I'll do here is I'll go ahead and open the SAS software again just to show you the difference between temporary and permanent library in SAS. So here I've opened the SAS software again. So what I'll do, I'll go to libraries here. I'll open work library. Now if you remember, we have created the data by the name SAS training here. Now that data is not here anymore because work is a temporary library, which means any data that we store in the work library will only be there for a temporary session only, which means once we close the SAS software, anything that we store here in the work library will be deleted automatically. And then if you remember, we have created the data in the SAS user library by the name ABC. Now this ABC data is still here because ABC was created in SAS user library, which is a permanent library. So that is the difference between permanent and temporary library here. And that is it also for day one class. So now I'll just show you what all has to be done. So hardly much is covered on day one class. So what you can do is you can just continue with the reading. You can do after day one class. You can continue wherever you left off earlier from the SAS presentation pages 1 to 30, from the training handouts pages 1 to 3, and from the little SAS book chapter 3.4, 3.5 and 3.1 in the order that's mentioned here. This will give you a gist of what we're going to do in the next class. So all these books, you can find them in the learnings folder. The SAS presentation, the training handouts and the little SAS book. And that is it also for this day one class. Thank you.